All right, everybody. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us and staying for part two of our great interview with Mr. David Cummings. On this Thursday night on a Sunday that we're recording. But anyway, David, on that last part that I was talking to you about, and can you take us behind the scenes a bit? What's your process when preparing for TDC?
Sure. So I think each year it's been a little bit different. I keep tweaking it. Obviously, that very first year, I spent hours a Saturday out there by myself, just trying to figure out what it was about. I remember back in 2019, that was my first year getting acquainted with TDC. They told me about it. I hadn't been with the company long enough, so I couldn't compete. So I came in. I remember I came in one Saturday morning, and guys had a bullseye set up and a couple other things, and I pulled the truck up to that bullseye. I'm like, this doesn't look that hard. And I lined the center of the hood up to it, got out, and I was 3 feet short, and I was like 3 feet off to the side. I'm like, oh, that's harder than it looks. I'm
Been
like,
there,
well,
done
how in
that.
the world do you do this?
Been
So,
there, done that.
but then I watched them compete, and it was just like, oh, I got to do this. So obviously, from 19 with 20 and 21, not they didn't have it. I had to wait all the way to 22. Um, that year, it was just a whole lot of just practice, just trying to get familiar with how to do it. And the fact that I made it to nationals that year, that was, I mean, that was really tremendous. And a lot of that was because of the back room. Um, one of the guys, Chris at our center, he would hound me about the book. Like we'd just gotten the book for a week, and he's asking me questions out of it, like, "What year was this regulation in?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And well, who did this? And I'm like, I'm not sure." He's like, "Come on, you got to know this stuff." And so after that, I was like, okay, I was determined to not let him stump me on this stuff, and so I just really began working on the book. And pre-trip, I worked on it. I still wasn't quite sure how to do those, but I just kept working on it. And um, over the last few years, I've adjusted and fine tuned to. I mean, some of it from last year into this year, I realized that, like for instance, with the pre-trip, I was doing two different things: my normal daily one, and then I had a practice one. And I talked to a couple guys, and they're like, "Look, every day I'm doing my TDC pre-trip. Yeah, I'm not time, so I'm not pushing against the time, but it's the same routine." And this last winter, I actually switched my routine because I had identified areas that I was losing time. And so every day I do that same routine, except, it's around triples. So I get lots of time to look at each trailer, and
Right.
and and I'm learning at looking at each thing that I look at every day with a purpose. So when I look at the tires, I'm looking for certain things every time, just like you are every day. You want to find if there's a bulge, if it's a proper tire, if there's enough tread, if there's a flat spot, all the basic things, which is the same thing you're looking for in a competition one. And I work that way around so that I'm programming my mind for what I'm looking for. Some view it as an Easter egg hunt, and if that works for them, again, that might be the way it works. But somebody mentioned it to me that, hey, have a purpose. And so have begun to work on having a purpose, because my pre-trip in the competition side still needs work. I'm finding two-thirds of them, but that's not good enough. I need to find all of them, or almost all of them. My goal is all of them,
Right.
because those are valuable points. When it comes down to 5 or 10 points, that's one defect on the pre-trip that can make a difference of making the top five. Um, and so that I work on year round. It's just working on that routine and getting that routine established. With the book, when that comes out in March or so, I begin. I buy the audio as soon as I can. I'll get the Usually the digital comes out first, so I'll get that, and then I can kind of compare it to the old and see what's changed.
Right, right.
Because even if the new audio isn't out, I can start listening to the sections that are the same, and I can start refreshing those. And then when the new audio comes, then I can work through learning the new numbers, learning the new parts they've added or changed. And I work on that. I've got 9.5 driving hours basically a day. And so that's free time to use to learn. And I learn well by listening and absorbing. And so I'll start out with 2 to 3 hours a day, which is about an hour to an hour and a half on the way out, and an hour and a half on the way back, which still gives me time to listen to music or talk on the phone. Um, And then as I get closer to the competition, then I'll ramp it up sometimes where I'm going 4 or 5 hours a day listening to the book, because it's about just under 8 hours to go through the whole book. And if I listen to 4 hours of it a day, which is 2 hours on the trip out and 2 hours on the trip back, I get through half of the book a day. And so I can get through the book 2.5 times a week.
Yeah.
Um, and then I can hit trouble spots if I want to. And then so this last year, last year I was like, the state competition has been my first one, and I've been very vulnerable at state with the driving. I've struggled, and I've known I've been very beatable, and I really wanted to work on that. So last fall, as I look towards, okay, how can I try to get back next year? What can I do to get better? My wife and I were like, it's like I want to try competing. I wanted to go to the safety drive for a cure. So I was like, I want to knock the rust off, get myself into competition mode, and I want to try competing in a course setting. Just I want to try something new. Plus, it's an awesome opportunity to give to a great cause
Right.
and to rub shoulders with other drivers that I haven't seen since the summer. And I
Right.
kind of wanted to get out on a course, especially after last year's final run. I wanted to get back out and prove to myself I could still drive, and that was just adrenaline or nerves or whatever. And so we went down there the weekend before it in March. I did actually pull a couple barricades out and do a couple little practice maneuvers myself, because I'm like, I don't want to go down there and be so rusty that I look foolish in front of everybody. But
Yeah.
I don't think there was snow on the ground, but there might have been. And so we went down to Atlanta, and I actually won my class at that one. I'm like, okay, well that's it was encouraging. And so then from that point on all the way till nationals, there might have been one weekend that we didn't practice, um, or I was either practicing or competing. But Judy would go up there with me. I've got a picture from I think the next weekend in March. She's got her winter jacket on, and she was all bundled up, but she was out there helping me. She went from that to in August. She was shorts and t-shirt and sweating. Out there, but
Right.
every weekend she was there with me and coaching, and she helped me with pre-trips. She would do some basic ones around some stuff and time me, and she was able to tell me, it looks like you're stalling out here in this spot. You're spending time, you're just kind of lost, or whatever. And so her input became really valuable to me, just in helping me. And when I'd be discouraged, she would when I was missing the same obstacle 3 or 4 times, and I'm sitting there like this at the steering wheel, just like, why can't I do it? She's like, you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. And
Right.
just having that motivator, that encourager to work with you on it, because I knew I needed to get those things down if I wanted to compete. I knew I needed to have them. And have just having her there, offering that input, seeing things that I can't see from the driver's seat, being able to do continuous motion, and she could tell me, yeah, you were this way, and then you pulled this way, because you can't see that by yourself. You can get out and look and go
Right.
like, well, why am I off to the right of that? Well, she
Right.
she had she gave me the eyes, and it's when other guys are there too. When other guys come in and we're all practicing, then sometimes one of us will hop out and watch the other guy, especially if you're working on a radius turn. Well, having someone there walking along and seeing what you did, and then standing there and telling you, oh yeah, you were doing good, and then you turned the wheel just a little bit and drove off of it. That's valuable information. And so, you know, I'm working it going into next year. So many guys that have helped me, I want to keep building on that, but I also want to make sure I turn around and I'm helping them,
Right. Paying it forward.
as well. Yeah.
Paying it forward. Well, Vince, you touched on that. Like when you win state and you probably take a week or so off because you got a little time there before nationals or four C's, and you take a week or two off, just kind of clear your head and everything. But when you start practicing for nationals, do you get more nervous or you get more excited? How's that work?
So so actually the last couple years I have taken time off after state. This year I did not. I never let off the pedal this year, because I was like, it seemed to me, for me personally, it seemed that it was hard for me to get back in my rhythm. If I just backed off, took a break from the book or anything, I was like, I've got to keep this fresh. Because last year, this is going to sound crazy, but last year I was really, really upset because I missed three on the test, and I felt I backed off too much. and
Okay.
left myself vulnerable on that. And I knew that if I wanted any chance to win the book, I had to stay in it. And so it was the same with the driving. That next Saturday or Sunday, whichever it was, we were back up there practicing because I wanted to keep that routine all summer long.
Right.
And yeah, I forget what was the what was that, what was the actual question?
Are
Oh,
you
do I get
more
nervous?
excited or more nervous?
So I am like I already have a little bit of jitters for state next year. Um, because if you don't win state, there's no nationals.
Right.
And so I'm actually more nervous about state leading up to it than I am about nationals. Because once you qualify for nationals, it's like, all right, I'm getting there. Now let's focus on what I want to do. Yes, I'm nervous. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm like, oh, no,
Right.
I'm nervous, but I think I'm more nervous for state, and it's
Right.
probably more excitement with the nerves for nationals. The nervousness between state and nationals probably changes more to just making sure I don't do anything that takes me out of it.
Right.
The
Exactly.
preparation, stay focused on my preparation, uh, but then just the details of the safety orders, sticking to my routine day in and day out, making sure that I don't do something silly that wipes me out of it. I've been blessed to be able to go 29 years, without a preventable accident. I don't need that first one to be then. I
Right.
don't want it now either, but it just amplifies once you get to that between state and nationals time.
Right.
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 Um,
Right. So, let's kind of transition into the road team. Uh,
okay.
tell us about that. How'd that come about? How do you feel about it? And what's it involve? What all do you do and everything?
So that was, I mean, that was another unique thing that happened last fall. That came right after nationals last year, the disappointment in nationals, and the information came out about it, and I'm like, I really want to do it, and that was one of those things I was talking to Judy. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably sign up, but the chances of me getting on that road team, I've only been with the company 7 years. There's guys that are going to be getting on there 20 some years experience, very deserving to be on it. What do I have to offer? But I'm like, she's like, well, go do it. You should try, and it's like, I'll do it, and I'll do my best to learn, and that's another thing that I appreciate with FedEx is the system they have in place, not only for TDC, where you've got drivers that come along and they mentor you in the TDC program, but they equip you, everybody that wants to come and be a part of the road team, they equip you with a mentor. And those mentors work with you and they train you and they invest in you, and they'll call you and they quiz you and they prepare you so that you can succeed. It doesn't mean you're going to get on, but they give you the tools that I need. And I feel like they give us the tools we need in our daily work. They give us the tools we need for the truck driving competition. And they equipped me to be able to go and stand before the guys that were watching me do my interview, watching me or questioning me, and then doing the mock interview that we had to go through in the process of doing it. They give you the tools to where you can go in there full of nerves, but present it, but you know what you're going to be experiencing. You're equipped
Right.
with it. Um, and so to get that phone call a couple nights after, that was another one of those just amazing moments that happened when it's like I remember getting off the phone. I'm like, I made the team, and she's like, I told you you would, and I'm like, it was just I couldn't believe it. But it's been such a great experience. Even in that, I've learned so much more, continue to learn so much more about the importance of safety, being a safe driver, and now getting the opportunity to share that with other people. The opportunities that we have to go to driver's ed classes or community safety events, and just share with mainly young people, but the parents are there sometimes, and anyone else, share with them how they can drive around us in trucks and how they can be safe, and giving them that one-on-one visual of where we lose a car in a blind spot,
Right.
letting them climb up into the truck. One of the ones I did, you could tell the kids were sitting there, they saw the cars around it, and you could almost tell they're like, yeah, I'm going to be able to see those. They were, and they climb up in
Right.
that seat, and I was like, so what do you see? And they're like, I, I don't see anything. And the one was a full size pickup.
Yeah, right.
And it was
Right.
like, I can't see it. And just that kind of that light bulb that goes on that, oh, I didn't know you couldn't see that, and get to explain with them how they can better drive around us. And,
So
if we can make a
Park a
difference in those lives,
park
that's special.
yeah, park another tractor trailer beside it and make it disappear.
Yeah.
right.
That really
Yeah.
gets them. That really gets them. They're like, "What you do? What you do?" I didn't do nothing,
Right.
because I always put them in between the cab and the trailer and say, "Look, you see it there. Now get up in the
Yep.
3 points of contact, get in the truck, put yourself in the driving position, look in that mirror and tell me what you see." And they're like, "Where'd it go?" And they're looking around for the other captain there, like, "He moved it. I know he did. He moved it." "Nope, he's standing right here." So
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead, Tim.
Hey, David, that's a good place for me to pivot into the next question here. And
Okay.
the next question is, speaking of road team and some of the events that you've done, take us down the road of one of your most memorable road team events.
So I have two, I think, that stick out that I've done. My very first one I got to do down in Rome, Georgia, with the Lutzy 43 Foundation, and that event there just was so powerful. For it to be my first event, they're doing great work through the state of Georgia. I know they're working, expanding even into other states. They've got a tremendous message. I mean, it's a heartbreaking story that leads into their whole operation that they're doing, but the way they are paying that forward and honoring the memory and reaching the lives of young people, and to play a small part of that with the other captain that I was with, my first time bringing these young people around a truck and just sharing how they can drive safely around us so that we all can get to our destination safely. That was just a moving event. Um, the second one that was a highlight for me is they challenged us this year as captains to get a hold of a local school in our area and try to set something up and line something up. And I knew the driver's ed instructor in our town there in Wapaton and got a hold of him, and he was super excited. He's like, I teach this, but man, having a visual would be awesome. And so I got to bring a set of doubles and set cars around it, and along with another captain, reach I think it was 47 students on their first day of driver's ed for summer's driver's ed. And to be able to do that, my very first event that I had right there in my town, that was really special.
Yeah, yeah, and those Lutzy 43 events are special. I actually did one of the first ones when he got hooked up with FedEx there, and man, I tell you what, Mr. Lutzenkirchen, they do put on a great, great program. So, if anybody out there in the listening audience ever has a chance to be a part of the Lutzy 43 Safety Summit, I encourage you. It's well worth the time to go, and they pour back into the students also by giving scholarships. So it is a great thing. It's a great thing. So I'm gonna let
Yeah.
Steve jump on in there.
Yeah, and with that being said, just go back and watch one of our previous shows with Mike. We had Mike on the show,
Sure.
very knowledgeable, very caring. He has a very moving story. But go back and watch that show. Um, Trying to think here. I guess we could, step into a little bit of your, excuse me, a little bit of your farming. Did you do
Sure.
much farming?
So when we moved to where I grew up there in New York State, we lived right next to a dairy farm. And so from age 7 on, I would, when school stuff was done and everything, I would go down there, ride my bike down, and I would ride on the tractors with the farmer, just watch everything. And he'd let me sit on, they were open cab, but they had the fender and you could hold on and you just ride. And my dad always jokes about the progression. He would see the tractor go by the house and I was riding. Well, when I was little, I rode on the farmer's lap. But as I grew, then I rode up on the side of the fender. And then he said, then it transitioned to where you were driving the tractor and the farmer was sitting on the fender, to eventually you were driving the tractor by yourself.
Right.
And so any day I could go down there, I was down there. Even if I didn't drive, I was throwing bales. I loved being around the equipment. I loved any opportunity I got to drive it. I mean, I was like a kid in a candy store, just
Right.
I got to drive the tractor. I would clean calf pens and chicken coops just so I could drive the tractor afterwards to take it out and spread it in the field. I remember a couple times I was so frustrated because I spent all day cleaning the chicken coop and the farmer jumped on the tractor and took off into the field. And I'm like, "Nah, that's what I was doing it for." I was like,
Yeah,
"Come on,
yeah, yeah, yeah. My
you took
game
the fun
plan just
part."
got shot.
Yeah, so David, I can relate with that because I grew up on a farm down here in South Georgia, and at 11 years old, I was on the tractor, and I was out in
Sure.
the fields, I was spraying cotton, and and I was plowing the fields and everything else. So that's where my passion comes from. Like I always said, I've always had my hands on the steering wheel somehow, some way. But these days, how do you juggle life on the road, your responsibility as a road team captain, and staying connected? I mean, how do you do that?
So, again, so much of what I do is tied to my family. I mean, my wife does a tremendous job of keeping me informed of who's doing what and where, and um, you know, fortunately, some of the kids' sports activities happen on a Saturday, so I get to go to those now. And uh, it does get full sometimes. The company, FedEx does a great job with when there's an event, getting me to it, and you know, I enjoy I enjoyed like the change of pace. I love driving, but when you get that opportunity to go for a day or 2 days somewhere and teach kids, I mean, I love just being able to pass that information along to them, and hopefully it makes a difference in their life to where when they get in the car and drive, they're thinking about when they're driving by a truck, oh hey, I just want to go get by them. I don't want to stay in this spot, and anything that will help them. And so then you get to do that and then come back and jump back in the truck and I'm back in my happy place behind the wheel, and so getting to do some of these things that I'm doing, like talking with you guys here with from winning the nationals and stuff. Again, just another unique opportunity that I never imagined I would have as part of the trucking industry.
Mhm.
I still get to drive, but I get to share about the industry. I get to tell people that this industry can be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes along, but when you love doing it, there's nothing else I'd rather do. Every day is a good day when I can get in that seat, put the seatbelt on, and go drive down the road. But balancing it out with the home time. One of the cool things now, my 17-year-old has taken an interest in farming, and there's a crop farm just outside of town here that he's working for on the weekends. And there was one night back in the spring where I was coming home late, and he called me. He's like, "Dad, I'm out at the field by the exit where you get off to come home." And so it was 10:30 at night, and he was out rolling the field, and so pulled up and jumped in, and I got to ride back and forth at midnight with him out in the field, and that was a special moment to see one of
Right.
my kids taking a similar path that I took. I don't know where to lead, but he has that interest. He calls himself a farm boy now because he's on the farm, and he likes to pick on me,
Awesome.
us blue collar guys, and but it's so just trying to do what I can to be with the family, do some of the activities.
Right.
Judy does a lot of it, and so some of that I live through the pictures. But uh, it's my family supports what I do, and that makes a big difference too. We're It's like we're all into whatever each person is doing, and that's what helps me to be able to balance it all.
Right,
Right.
right. Yeah.
Right. Excuse me. For someone just starting in the trucking or thinking about getting into TDC that's already trucking, what advice would you give?
Find someone that's done it before, um, and don't be afraid to go ask them. Most of the people I've met that are in it are willing to encourage somebody to do it, but I would wholeheartedly recommend it to anybody. Give it a try. Learn about it because it does make you a better driver. I've been accident free beforehand, but getting into this program, it has changed how I think. Leading up to nationals, between state and nationals, the closer you get to nationals, the bigger that bubble around your truck gets, where you're just like, get away from me, stay away from me,
Yeah, right?
just leave
Yeah.
me alone. I just want to be in my own spot. And so whether
Yes.
you're coming up to a construction zone, you look in the mirror and you see that car that they're gunning it because they want to be ahead of you, and you're like, why are you doing that? And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to back away. You take that spot. I got more important things to worry about than you. You just
Yep.
go.
Yep.
I don't want you
Exactly.
near me. And so it makes you think in a totally different way. It makes you think in that safety mindset. It makes you think, did I go back and check those airlines? Did I unhook them? Just go back and look. When you're pulling a trailer from the dock, it's like, did I check to make sure that door was closed? Yeah, I did. No, no, go back and look. And
Exactly.
even if you never have a problem with it, all it takes is that one. And you're sitting there going, why didn't I? And that's every day. That's now.
Yeah.
We're in TDC 2026 mode right now because it takes every day accident free to get there. And so I would encourage somebody getting into it. Number one, focus on every day. Focus on making that safety mindset daily, and then talk to somebody, ask somebody, hook up with somebody that will mentor you in it. That's what got me where I am. I had a couple guys that poured themselves into me. In fact, the one guy that did the most for me, he didn't make it this year. He took Friday off and came down to nationals to watch me drive, to cheer me on, and stayed Saturday. And that was special too. Just outside of having my family, here's a man that mentored me who took the time to come down to cheer me on. And that made it so special to be able to reward him with that national title and be like, you helped me do this.
Yep.
And of course he's like,
Exactly.
no, 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 it's you. And I'm like, no, you don't understand, you helped me.
Yep.
And so that'd be my advice: find somebody that's done it, ask them questions, even look guys like me up, find someone that knows me, get my number, give me a call, I'll talk. I enjoy it.
Right.
So
It'll change you.
So I've got one more question. We're going to start winding the show down right here because we're getting kind of close, and really got to keep my eye on the clock today. Normally we could run over if we wanted to, right? For sure. But I do want to ask you, two more questions. One is
Sure.
personal insight and looking ahead. So, what drives you to continue improving and competing year after year?
uh I love competition. I never got to do it when I was younger. I watched my kids compete, and this is my chance to do it. And winning one, you get the taste of it. You want to try again. I've been catching grief from people because I didn't win pre-trip. They're like, "What's wrong with you?" So, I mean, I've got to work on pre-trip to get better at that. But um, just the atmosphere, the people. My wife drives me. I mean, she's already, it's Pittsburgh next year. Let's go. I want to go to Pittsburgh. So, um, next year would be my 5th year, which FedEx, that's a special milestone. So I would love to
Very
try to
exciting.
to accomplish that. Um, and just I love the camaraderie. Many describe it as your NTDC family, and it is. And so you want to
Right.
make it back to that.
Right.
And so just that drive for success, the love of it, it's fun.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
So
sometimes it's frustrating.
yeah. So now looking ahead, what's next for you? More competition, more farming, more trucking, something completely different?
So while I don't farm, I love watching my son farm and I love doing that, but competition is definitely still there. Doing my daily driving is still there. What I love. Down the road, I want to be an America's Road Team Captain. I want to be able to get on that team, be a part of that, do that as well. I thought about it this year, but I got so wrapped up pouring my time into TDC that when I thought about it, I realized I was going to have to take some time off of the practicing and stuff to try to get everything done. And I was like, I got another year or so in the FedEx team. I want to make sure I give that 100% because they gave me the opportunity. I want to do that. I'll
Yeah.
be even more prepared to try it in the future. So those are some of the things. Just keep doing what I'm doing what I love, and have wonderful opportunities to do it, and hopefully mentor other people and encourage other people,
Yeah.
maybe in some way inspire other people too.
Yeah. Well, David, we want to thank you for coming on Truckers Voices Night. Unfortunately, we're running out of time and we got to kind of wrap it up. But, folks, that's a wrap up for another great episode that we have here. And I want to thank a huge thank you to David for coming on and taking your time and sharing your incredible story from working on the farm as a young man and becoming a TDC Grand Champion, man, and making FedEx proud. His dedication and professionalism are inspirational to everyone. And a special thank you to Patrick Lauro, our guest from Fulton County Old Country Music, for their continued support of the show. And we couldn't do it without you, but we couldn't do it without the listeners' audience also. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Until next week, stay safe, stay strong, and remember, look out for those who aren't looking out for themselves. We'll see you right in here next time on Truckers Voices.
I stopped at a roadhouse in Texas, place they call Hamburger Dan, and And on that, the jukebox was playing a song called The Truck Driving Man. Well, pour me another cup of coffee.